Hello, this is Ron and Hugh. We are politically challenged. Good. Today we're going to talk about social media
Yay, social media.
and the implications that social media usage has on mental health issues.
Yeah, because we only deal with the light stuff on this channel.
How do we think social media is affecting mental health?
Negative and positively. Short answer. Long answer is that people get bullied and stuff online.
What do you mean? So online bullying.
Just go into that straight away. Online bullying.
Okay, sure. So
Trolling, all that stuff. Celebrities get trolled. People get trolled. A person is e.g. if we finally get on YouTube, it'll be like World War III on our comment section, like people criticizing us and people defending us and people criticizing them. It's an endless cycle.
Okay, so the multiple points that you've mentioned, you've talked about online bullying. Yeah, I agree that there's online bullying. Not sure about the facts and stats, but in terms of my perspective, I feel as if online bullying is a prominent issue, one that isn't talked about as much. To be honest, I feel as if, especially as social media becomes more prominent, more people will use social media, and that means there'll be a lot more exposure to negative comments, trolling, and all sorts of things. I think it's an inevitable thing, really, especially if somebody puts something in a comment section that somebody else might disagree with. Insults may ensue.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, social media is becoming more and more part of a regular routine for people. So, like, people get up, oh, what's on my phone? Oh, that's new. Today we woke up to find about the Syria attack, or the Syria missiles, right? That's social media.
Yeah, exactly. One aspect of social media is there's a lot more, there's a broader range of news channels and news articles that you can look at.
We're saturated in the news.
Yeah, I agree that it's oversaturated, but
we're saturated with it. I mean, we have all the news at our fingertips. It's just how reliable is it all?
So what are you saying? You're saying that it's overwhelming?
Well, to us, I mean, I come over to read it, and it sounded depressing to read about Syria.
Okay, so sure. I guess this relates back to our main topic. I mean, a lot of us, we read about what happened in Syria, about the chemical attacks, about what's happening in Russia, what's happening in Myanmar, what's happening in Africa, and the Middle East, and people tend to get annoyed.
It's happening everywhere, basically.
Yeah, I mean, almost everywhere there's some sort of conflict or some sort of stress or awful thing happening. We read about it, that may lower our mood, people might become depressed, people might get worried for their neighbors or different countries or their families, if their families are in these countries. Yeah, it might make people anxious as well.
We in the UK, we don't have to deal with that a lot. I mean, we're on high alert when it comes to terrorism and so on, but we don't have to deal with it on a regular basis.
Yeah, but to be fair, last year we had, 5 terrorist attacks, and
I feel
multiple attacks were in London.
And few that will stop. It does not ignore the fact that there were still attacks that will stop.
Yeah, the authorities did their job to stop the terrorist attacks that they could. More could have happened if it wasn't for their intervention, so we thank them for that.
And that faulty bomb on the train, that was just luck.
That's true. The fact is, it always seems, not just because it actually happens, but because of the media perception of it, it always seems as if we're always on high alert. There's this terrorism going everywhere you go. You think some people feel as if, they can't go into work or they can't leave their house because they're not sure if there's going to be a terrorist attack. I mean, it's really terrible.
Yeah, I don't think you say that, but like people are like you're afraid of terror attacks. I mean, like you're likely to get hit by a car, lightning. I mean, lightning's very unlikely. I don't know why I made that example, but I mean, you could die at any point in any time. Like anything can happen at any point. Something can happen as I'm talking now. But it's just, I think it's a part of life, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff can happen at any point.
Exactly. There are many ways that one could die, or multiple ways that one could die. But the fact is, because the media seem to focus a lot on war and terrorism and corruption and politics.
Didn't my friend comment that we should probably talk about more cheerful topics? I mean,
yeah, we can, but there's not a lot
going on, to be honest.
If you look at the media in itself, there's not much cheeriness to talk about. I think that's the whole point.
And the other point of us is to like we're just talking our opinions on what's happening. But at the end of the day, stuff happens, and I don't know how this might sound harmless, but you should probably take on the chin and just move on, because that's life at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, okay.
It happens everywhere, to be honest. It's not
Okay.
just England, London, France, Germany, Syria, America, wherever.
So what do you mean by take it by the chin?
Well, it happens. I mean, like, something happens at the end of the day. Something bad will happen.
Okay, but
I mean, I don't mean take it lying down. I mean, like, if you want to fight, you want to protest, so on, do that. But at the end of the day, stuff will always happen.
okay, so in a nutshell, I feel as if you do look at a lot of negative news articles, yeah, I understand why many studies have shown that social media usage can lead to symptoms of depression and anxiety and all this other stuff. Of course, if you read negative things, you will think negative things, and that will create a negative mood. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. But I'm sure there are a lot of ways that social media can benefit people's lives as well. I mean, we can talk about that if you want to be more cheery.
Well, like I said, it does give you a bit of knowledge, and you look at statistics on how likely these things are like to happen, and the fact that police and government officials in different countries are looking at ways of stopping them.
Okay, that's one aspect. That's within the news in itself. But let's think broader. For instance, a lot of people are creating businesses using social media, or at least marketing their businesses on social media.
Yeah.
It's easier than ever for businesses to connect with other businesses, and especially for businesses to connect with customers, so that they can generate more consumer engagement with the people who may or may not be buying their products and services, and then that can increase sales and revenue.
Well, we could just take a business away. It's called social media. So basically, you could talk to a friend anyway. They could be in London now, and then they could be on holiday, and you could still talk to them.
Sure.
That's the thing about social media. You could talk to anyone.
Sure.
Obviously with their details, but you know what I mean. You could talk to anyone. It gives you a sense of community that we probably didn't have for like, I don't know how long we've had social media, 10 years maybe properly or something.
Okay, that's true. For instance, there's the Cabinet UK Politics. That's a Facebook group. It's got like over 20,000 people in the group. That's a big community, especially for our standards. I mean, we're not very big ourselves, but it's a big community, 20,000 people. And that's people with all sorts of different political views. They all follow politics. They're all interested in politics. Some of them are left-leaning, some of them are right-leaning, some of them are centrist, conservative or liberal.
Yeah, all of whom are more informed than us, they're saying.
Well, perhaps some of them. And they talk on a wide range of issues. Like we checked the Cabinet's group this morning. They were talking about Syria. They were talking about police cuts. They've been talking about all sorts of things. Basically, anything that's on the news, anything that's not in the news, people talk about it.
Yeah.
So there are communities that are built on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter. People go on Instagram, Snapchat. They talk to their friends, old friends, new friends, complete strangers sometimes.
Yeah, if you think about social media, it can be powerful. You know, there are like 300 cases of like missing children each day. I forget, because they're talking about the Madeleine McCann case recently, and I found that depressing. But with social media, I mean, like if a person goes missing, it might be easier to track them down.
Perhaps.
I mean, I think social media could be used in that way. I'm not sure how often it gets used, but you get people about finding other relatives on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. You can find people.
So perhaps it's the way that social media is used. It can be used for good, it can be used for bad.
At the end of the day, it's a tool, like anything.
Like anything, exactly. You use the tool the right way, it can benefit you. If you use the tool the wrong way, it might harm somebody, yourself or somebody else.
Yeah, yourself. I mean, like
Would you say that social media is a weapon, perhaps?
We're not talking about guns now or knives.
We're not talking about the guns, but I feel as if social media can be used as a weapon, but it can be used as a healing tool as well.
Well,
We had the Cambridge Analytica situation. People were using social media as a weapon to collect as much data from people as possible, try to manipulate them into voting a certain way.
And
But at the same time,
destabilize economies of countries, several economies. If you think about
to
it.
destabilize economies, you say?
Well, in a way, I mean, like we left you could argue that Brexit was happened because of that, and some say it
In part, yes.
You could say some could say it destabilized that. Some people could say we've kind of been liberated away from the EU. And as I said before, I like that we're leaving it because I don't like how rigid the system is. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, with social media, you can look at different perspectives. If you look at if you look at mainstream media channels, you will look at certain content that will reflect the views of the people running the channels or running the stations. But with social media, you have a plethora, all sorts of things, like a smorgasbord of different news channels, different content, and a lot of it conflicts with each other. So I think the problem is with social media is people are stuck within their own echo chambers. So let's say if you subscribe to left-leaning news, you're going to hear a lot about The Guardian, and you're going to it's going to reinforce the left-wing beliefs that you already have. Let's say you're a big believer in everything being free or great or higher taxes. You're going to find that Facebook will use its algorithm to shove or push those same views on you through articles based on other people. So it will reinforce your own beliefs. Just like if you have right-leaning views,
you will get comments from people that agree with you.
Exactly. You'll get comments on articles from people who have similar views.
You should probably give a go. Like, you should probably do your own research and like look at other people's opinions. Like, they're not the enemy; they're people at the end of the day, and you're not their enemy. Like, there's a quote I saw on a TED talk. I should remember the name, but basically the thing is that when you defend an enemy, but when you dehumanize an enemy, you dehumanize yourself.
Makes sense.
So like, we're not picking sides left or right, but when a person that's on the right wing defends someone on the left wing, they are perceived as left wing and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Sure. Exactly. That's a good point. And another thing I'd like to mention briefly, saw a video online. I think it was a BuzzFeed video. There was a black man, an African American. He was going
You can't
under.
say black, right? You can't say black.
No, but he was American. He went undercover as a member of the alt-right. So what he did was he created a fake profile, started subscribing to far right-wing media, or so-called far right-wing media, such as Breitbart and other channels, other articles, other platforms, started commenting on social media right-wing views, and people were congratulating him because he thought he was someone else, and also especially because the views were similar to theirs. So he pretended to be some sort of far right person, and it turns out that a lot of these some of these people who have so-called far right views, a few of them so-called alt-right views, because far right and alt-right is slightly different. Some of them are like well-mannered, seemingly clever people who just happen to have these views. That's what he found out from his own experience. And it turns out that if you're left-wing, if you're right-wing, if you're centrist, it doesn't matter. There are coherent, logical arguments to most of these views, except maybe the xenophobic ones. But for most of these views that these people have, it seems to make sense. Like, you have to look at it from their perspective. Why do they feel that way? And of course, what generally seems to happen is if you have people with conflicting views, they'll argue, they'll bash, they'll complain, they'll throw insults, they'll try to shout each other down. There's not much of a debate.
There's a YouTube channel called The Jubilee where they get different people with different opinions in a room and they just talk about stuff.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Okay.
Yeah, they've done abortion, they've done right wing, they've done left wing, gun control.
So different views.
Yeah, about stuff.
And then they come to some sort of common ground?
Yeah, I think that's the point. The format is basically they ask a question and they talk about it, and then they get up and they do it again, and then you pick sides.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think the point that we're both trying to make is there's that platform where people from different views come together, try to find some common ground, try to tell each other why they feel how they feel, and then there was this African American pretending to be presumably a white, a white guy from the far right movement, blah blah. What we found from these platforms is that we have to ask ourselves one question: do we want to be right all the time, or do we want to solve the problem? See, there are many problems facing the world, facing the UK, facing America, facing different countries, and everyone's got different sides, different opinions. What seems to happen is people just argue all the time, but they don't really try to find out the underlying issues or the underlying reasons why people may believe in a specific view.
Like the Russia an attack thing in South, yeah.
The Salisbury incident?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing.
People went from like saying it's Russia to that it's not Russia anymore. And you said Corbyn was criticized for saying, wait until we have more evidence.
No, I believe
I think that was
people.
silly.
I believe people still think that it's Russia. It's just apparently certain people who claimed that it was Russia didn't have the evidence to back it up, and they said it anyway.
Which is silly.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the best thing to do, but it happened.
I guess they could have apologized and just say, sorry, I made a mistake and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So
As long as we find the real people, I think people will be like, fair enough. The agent matched what they thought was Russian, and if it's not, well, I mean, people could be civil. I mean, Arsenal went to Russia like Thursday, and they didn't have any. The Arsenal fans didn't have any problems. In fact, when they went there, I saw a YouTube video where they talked about how Russian fans were told not to come to London. Well, Russians were told not to come to London because they would get abused, and we get told the same thing. At the end of the day, it's like we're people, they're people. They could come here and they won't have any problems. We could go there, and we could easily have no problems.
well,
It's the media in this. I don't like it when they do that. Shouldn't the media try to unite us and inform us rather than just going like, oh, don't go there, don't go there.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it does seem as if that sometimes the media may choose to use reactionary commentary or contents in order to divide people or make people nervous, make people anxious, just to like watch their shows and buy their papers.
Yeah, that is media. We're talking about social media. This is media itself. Media itself, which I keep talking about. Like, I don't get what kind of state of like ethics they have to go for, like whether or not what they actually release is fact or fiction. But that's why fake news is always trending and stuff.
Yeah, people just don't know what to believe anymore. It's really
that's
sad.
why there was the conspiracy theorists always think about, oh, those are crisis actors, or those aren't real, or that's not real, and then so on. Like, I mean, it's just because of biased and bad reporting at the end of the day. I mean, it's the news. We just want to know what's going on. But we don't need their opinion or their agenda. We will make an opinion ourselves. We just want to know what's happening.
I mean, obviously we could always wish that the media would be more objective, but it really depends on the channel, and no one channel can be completely objective.
Yeah, the BBC are supposed to be objective, but you could say they lean left. But were they anti-Corbyn?
Not just the BBC, and let's not say that they're necessarily anti-Corbyn. I mean, multiple platforms have created content that has been seemingly anti-Corbyn or anti-May or anti-Trump, or it really depends on where you look at. And in fact, most mainstream media would be either indifferent to Trump or anti-Trump, except for maybe Fox and Friends, something like that.
Yeah.
But it really depends how you look at it. If we go back to social media in itself, I think social media is sort of better in a way than media. Not for the reasons we've covered.
Straight away. A person would be like, oh, I don't understand, and then a person, oh, the story means this. The story. So technically, you could get it translated.
We can interact with. Sometimes we interact with the people who run the channels themselves. Most of the time, we get to interact with people who have also seen the videos or the articles.
Story or picture, like it could be a joke, and can someone explain the joke, and someone be like, explain the joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, you get people that be like, they say, oh, this is funny, without explaining the joke, which is annoying.
Exactly. There are pros and cons to checking out the comment threads and adding a comment, because you'll have people agree with you and like the comment and love the comment, and that will give you some sort of a confidence boost. But at the same time, you might have people who would angry face the comment, or
mislead you, or write something else,
or insult you, or be sarcastic. It really depends.
Sarcasm does not translate well in text. It can be interpreted so many ways.
No, but you can, with text, you can tell if someone's being insulting or snarky. But that's almost always possible.
Yeah, but again, context makes a difference.
Yeah, of course, context is very important.
Yeah. God knows, I mean, you could take snippets of what we're talking about and like it could mean anything, really.
I mean, with social media in itself, let's think about the more personal level now, not just with the media and the news.
You mean our individual Instagram, social?
Yeah, like,
Facebook?
well, not just like general people,
I mean, that's
normal
when
people.
I say I mean like everyone, you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. So what most of us tend to do is we look at friends' profiles, maybe one or two family members. Some of us would stalk their exes. I don't know why people do that. I've never done that.
Oh, did we? I don't know. That's just negative. It's just bad.
Some people do that. I don't know why. They look at each other's social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. Sometimes they find fun things, relatable things. Sometimes people get envious because somebody's going on a holiday or somebody's got a new job. It's like if you're unemployed and somebody you used to know has a new job, it might make you feel envious. Or if somebody's got a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend, it might make the ex jealous as well. It really depends. I mean, do you think that's healthy? I don't think it's necessarily healthy in that level, but what do you think?
Well, in that situation, I think it's probably... I don't get why people flaunt stuff when they know their exes are still their friend or follower on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. But then again, I think if you're trying to get over someone, you should probably avoid that kind of stuff. And I think you should get to a point where like it doesn't matter. I'm not with them anymore. So
yeah, it makes sense.
But I think it's hard to be rational in that situation. It's just like don't go to extremes. I think that's what I can say about that. I mean, you could get angry and depressed, but it doesn't. At the end of the day, you're only hurting yourself and maybe other people. But just focus on yourself and just try to make yourself feel better without hurting anyone.
Okay, that's a very good point. I like that.
I thought you would.
I think we should end that. As I've said for every single podcast, use our social media. We've got a politically challenged page, so if you go on facebook.com/politically challenged, you'll see us. We've also got a Facebook community group. If you just type in on Facebook politically challenged podcast, you'll be able to see us. The background is a British flag with somebody holding up a peace sign, and then you can see our faces there as well.
In black and white.
Yeah, black and white. Instagram, politically challenged 247, all one word. Twitter, PC Politicast, so PCPOLITICAST. That is all of our social media so far. As we said, our YouTube channel is still under construction. We should get that sorted soon.
At some point.
Definitely soon.
The dream is that this will be on YouTube, and you'll be like, "What are they talking about?"
Yeah. Okay. That's the dream. Okay, so see you next time from Ron and Hugh.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Politically Challenged. Goodbye.